Patty Simpson with Simpson Math. In statistics, we ask some question and then we go out and collect data, and that data helps us to answer our question. We would love to be able to collect data from our entire group of interest, of our entire population, but a lot of times that takes too much time or money or manpower. So what we do is we just collect data from a part of our population, from a sample. And there are many different methods for collecting data from a sample, and we're going to discuss a few. Specifically, here we are going to look at a systematic method for collecting data. So, a systematic sample is just a method where we collect the data using a system to help us out. Some sort of pattern or some sort of periodic interval to help us to choose our data. So that's what all this says, is that it's a method for collecting a sample by starting at some random point and then continuing selecting a fixed periodic interval. So let me give you an example of this. Maybe I want to find out the opinion of the people in my town on some new law that's happening. So I'd love to be able to go around town and knock on everyone's door, but I just don't have time or the manpower to do that. So instead, I choose to go knock on every third door in town and talk to the people there. Now, that would be a systematic sample. I found every third door I'm going to go knock on in town. So the advantages to this type of sampling method is it takes less time, little less time, and it's really efficient. I have this pattern or this method for the system for collecting my data. However, the disadvantage is that there may be some statistical bias that's introduced if the population happens to be organized in a cyclic pattern. Here's what I mean by that. In my town, we have a historic district, and in the historic district, back in the day, a long time ago, there were really big houses that were built. And maybe there were some little houses built alongside those big houses for people who helped out in the big houses. Or maybe it was just built on a lot of land, and over time that land is sold. But what we have in that historic district now is a big house and a little house and a little house and a big house and a little house and a little house. And so if I went and knocked on every third door in that neighborhood, I might only be getting big houses because I might be only knocking on every third door where there's a big house. Or maybe I'm only getting little houses because I'm only knocking on every third door and it happens to be a little house. I need to make sure that in my method for collecting the data, that every third house has not only big houses, but also little houses as well. So I'm getting a good representation of the entire population. So that is one disadvantage, is you have to watch for those cyclical patterns within the population. Here's a couple of examples of a systematic sample. The faculty council at a university wants to pick a sample of faculty and ask how they feel about changing instructor titles. The council gets a list of faculty and department chairs. The council interviews every 10th member on the list. So again, instead of talking to every member, we're just looking at every 10th one. We have this pattern or this system for choosing the members for the sample. But whoever's running the survey needs to be careful and look at the list to make sure that it's not organized in some cyclical pattern. In other words, they need to make sure that every 10th member is not like a department chair. Maybe every department has 10 members and the 10th one is always the department chair. Maybe department chairs have a different idea than the rest of the faculty. Or maybe every 10th member on the list is the new hire. And so those new hires have a different opinion than the rest of the faculty. So they just need to watch to make sure that the 10th member on the list includes department chairs and people who've been there for a while and people who've been there less time and new hires. It has a variety of people throughout the college. So having a method is a really good idea as long as there's not some pattern within the population. Here's another example. A gym manager wants to find the average heart rate of a member. Then the manager has the members take their heart rate every hour on the hour throughout the day. So they can't be constantly taking the heart rates of their members, but instead what he does is he has a system or pattern in place where every hour on the hour, everyone stops and takes their heart rate. But again, the gym manager needs to look for cyclical patterns to make sure that he's getting a good representation. For instance, maybe every hour on the hour is when the classes start. And so people haven't been working out yet, and so therefore their pulse rate would be lower than it would be later in the hour. So they just need to watch for those types of things to make sure that they're getting a good representation of the entire population and make adjustments if they aren't. So with a systematic sample, we just have some sort of system or pattern in place to help us to choose the sample. Math Made Simple at Simpson Math. Thanks for watching.